You finally sit down, ready to answer one message, finish one report, or maybe just breathe for a moment. And there it is. Your cat arrives with the quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly where the center of the room is. One smooth leap, a soft thud, and suddenly the laptop belongs to them now. Their body settles across the keyboard as if your work has been gently, unmistakably canceled by royal decree. At first, it can feel almost personal. Maybe your cat is jealous. Maybe they were being stubborn. Maybe they simply want attention, and this is their most effective strategy. And of course, it is hard not to laugh, even while you sigh and move them for the third time. There is something deeply familiar in that little interruption, something almost symbolic. In a world that moves too fast, your cat has chosen this exact moment to say, "Not yet. Look here. Be with me." But what if that tiny act is not a nuisance at all? What if your laptop is not just a device to your cat, but a place charged with meaning? Warmth rises from it like a small sun. Your scent lingers on it, carrying the invisible map of your day. It sits in the middle of your attention, where your focus gathers, and your hands return again and again. In your cat's world, that makes it important. A threshold. A territory worth claiming. And maybe that is why this behavior touches us so deeply. Because when a cat settles on your work, it is not only blocking the screen, it is stepping into the space between your task and your life, asking to be included in the story you are telling yourself at that moment. For some cats, that means cuts. For others, closeness. For many, it means warmth, security, and a quiet assurance that their place in the home is still secure. If you have ever stared at your keyboard beneath a purring body and wondered, "Why here?" you are not alone. That question opens the door to something much more interesting than mischief. And once you begin to see what your cat may actually be communicating, the whole scene changes. So keep listening, because the reason your cat claims your laptop may reveal far more about their inner world than you ever expected. There is something almost comical about the way a cat can transform an ordinary workday into a quiet negotiation. One moment, your desk is yours alone. The next, your laptop is under a velvet claim, and your cat is settled there with the calm authority of someone who believes the world was arranged for this exact purpose. And if you've ever looked at that little body stretched across your keyboard and felt a flash of annoyance, you are not alone. But beneath that interruption is a language older than words. Cats do not simply wander into our lives to be difficult. They observe, they remember. They read the atmosphere of a room with a sensitivity that can feel almost uncanny. When your hands are moving over a keyboard, your attention becomes concentrated, your posture changes, your scent gathers around a familiar object, and warmth rises softly from the machine. To a cat, that combination can feel like a signal. Here is heat. Here is scent. Here is something alive with meaning. Here is the place where your focus lives. In a way, the laptop becomes more than a tool. It becomes a threshold. It is where your gaze goes when you are working, studying, paying bills, writing, or talking to someone far away. Your cat may not understand the task, but it understands the ritual. It sees that when you sit there, a doorway opens between your world and the outside world, and cats have never been indifferent to doors. They want to stand where the passage happens. They want to be near the center of the moment. Sometimes that is mistaken for jealousy. And perhaps there is a small truth in that human translation. Not jealousy exactly, but a desire not to be left out. A cat who climbs onto your laptop may be saying, in the only way it knows, "Know this place matters to you, so it matters to me too." That is why it often happens at the exact moment you become most absorbed. The cat is not necessarily trying to block your life. It may be trying to enter it. If you've noticed your cat doing this, maybe give a quiet light to the universe for the strange tenderness of it. Because once you stop seeing the behavior as sabotage, you begin to notice the real pattern. Heat, scent, attention, tension. And once you see that, the next question becomes even more interesting because laptops are only part of the story. There are papers, notebooks, desks, and the hidden reasons cats choose them all. At first, the scene feels almost comical. You open your laptop, ready to begin the day, and your cat arrives with quiet certainty, stepping between you and the screen, as if the work itself were only a minor inconvenience. But behind that small act is a deeper language, one that cats have been speaking for centuries in ways that are subtle, instinctive, and deeply social. Your laptop is warm. Your desk smells like you. Your hands move there often. In your cat's world, that makes it important. And there is something else too. Your workspace is not just a surface. It is the place where your attention gathers. Cats are remarkable observers of human rhythm. They notice when you settle into a task, when your eyes narrow toward a screen, when your hands become still. To a cat, that moment can feel like a door closing. So they step in, not always to interrupt, but to participate. It is as if they are saying, if this matters to you, then it matters to you. That is why a cat may choose the keyboard over the nearby cushion, the papers over the soft blanket, the exact center of your notebook instead of the edge of the chair. The object is not the prize. The connection is. Your cat is drawn to the place where your life seems to concentrate itself. In a house full of rooms, your desk becomes a little kingdom of shared meaning. The cat does not read your calendar or understand deadlines, but it understands presence. It understands that being close to you is where security and belonging. Of course, that does not mean you must surrender every work session to feline rule. The answer is not frustration, and it is not rejection either. It is gentle redirection. A warm bed placed nearby. A soft blanket in the same room. A few minutes of play before you sit down. Small rituals that tell your cat, you are included, even when I am focused. When that message is clear, the need to claim your keyboard often softens. And perhaps that is the quiet lesson hidden inside this everyday interruption. What looks like stubbornness may actually be a search for closeness. What feels like a nuisance may be an invitation to understand more deeply how your cat experiences your world. If this has ever happened to you, give the video a like so others can find this insight too. And tell me, does your cat sit on your laptop, your papers, or right in the middle of your plans? Because in the next part, we'll see how this behavior can be guided without breaking the bond that makes it meaningful. And once you begin to see it, the scene changing. Your cat is no longer just an interruption crossing your day. It becomes a small, living mystery with its own logic. The laptop glows. It hums softly. It holds the warmth of your hands, the scent of your skin, and the quiet proof that you are here, focused on something that does not include them. To a cat, that can feel like a powerful invitation. Not an order, not a rebellion, but a message written in heat and attention. This is where the life is happening. That is why the behavior often deepens at the very moment you need concentration most. The desk becomes a stage. The papers become a nest. The keyboard becomes a barrier between you and the attention your cat has learned to value. And if your cat has ever stepped directly onto the keys and looked back at you with complete calm, as if to say, yes, I know exactly what I've been doing, then you already understand the strange elegance of the moment. It is almost funny, almost funky. Many people respond with frustration, but frustration misses the deeper truth. Cats do not sit on your laptop because they want to ruin your work. They sit there because your work has become part of their world. You are important. Your smell is comforting. Your attention is precious. Even the shape of your routine matters to them. In that sense, the laptop is not really the destination. It is the symbol of your engagement, the object that seems to pull you away from the social bond they are trying to protect. And that is where understanding begins to transform this friendship. Instead of pushing your cat away with irritation, you start asking a better question. What is my cat trying to gain here? Warmth, closeness, a familiar scent, a place in the center of your life. When you answer that question with care, the struggle softens. Heated bed nearby, a window perch, a few minutes of play before you sit down, a soft blanket beside the desk. These are not tricks. They are translations. If this has ever happened to you, give this video a like so more cat lovers can see their own daily story with new eyes. And if your cat has a favorite method of interruption, tell us in the comments. Do they sit on your laptop, lie on your papers, or block your keyboard like they own the office? Because once you understand the reason, the next step is not control. It is guidance. And that is where the real change begins. What begins as a nuisance slowly reveals itself as a kind of conversation. Your cat is not simply interrupting your day. It is stepping into the middle of your world and asking, in the only language it fully trusts, to be noticed. The laptop, with its moving light, its warmth, its scent of your hands, becomes a small stage where your attention gathers. And for a cat, attention is never a trivial thing. It is safety. It is belonging. It is proof that the bond is still alive. That is why so many cats ignore the expensive toy in the corner and settle instead on the papers you are reading, the notebook you just opened, the exact spot where your hands need to go. They are not trying to ruin the moment. In their own quiet logic, they are joining it. They are saying, if this matters to you, then I want to be near it. Sometimes that nearness looks like a heavy body across the keyboard. Sometimes it looks like a tail draped over the mouse. Sometimes it is a slow blink from the center of your work, as if your cat has appointed itself the guardian of your focus. And when you understand that, frustration softens. You start to see that the answer is not force, but invitation. A warm bed beside the desk. A familiar blanket at the side. A few minutes of play before you sit down, so that energy finds a path instead of a target. Small rituals that tell your cat, you are part of my life, even when I am busy. That simple message can change everything, because a cat does not need to be pushed away from connection. It needs to be shown where connection can live without collision. The secret is not to remove your cat from your world, but to widen the world a little so both of you can share it. And maybe that is the deeper lesson hidden inside us. In a life that often asks us to move faster, to stay productive, to keep our attention locked on screens, a cat quietly insists on presence, on warmth, on the reminder that the moment in front of us is also a relationship. If this sounds familiar, give this story a like, so it can reach someone else who has been lovingly conquered by a cat and a keyboard. And tell me, what does your cat claim most often? Your laptop, your papers, your chair, or your full attention? If you want more ways to understand these small mysteries, stay with me, because there is still more to uncover about what your cat is really trying to say. And so, what first felt like an interruption begins to look like something far more meaningful. Your cat is not simply trying to defeat your productivity, as if your keyboard were an enemy to be conquered. In its own quiet language, it is making a proposal. Notice me. Include me. Let me be near you while you move through the strange, glowing world of your work. That is the beautiful twist in this small daily scene. The laptop is warm, yes. It carries your scent, yes. It sits at the center of your attention. But beyond all of that, it becomes a bridge. For your cat, lying across your papers or stepping between your hands, and the keys may be less about disruption and more about belonging. In the cat's mind, your desk is not only a workspace, it is a place of social gravity, a place where your energy gathers, a place where energy gathers. Once you see it this way, the frustration softens. You begin to notice that your cat is not rejecting your routine, it is trying to join it, and that changes everything. Instead of pushing your cat away in the middle of the moment, you can create a gentler path. A warm bed near your desk. A soft blanket in a sunny corner. A few minutes of play before you sit down. These small acts do more than redirect behavior. They tell your cat, you are part of this world too. There is something deeply human in that exchange. We all want to matter to someone. We all want to be near what feels alive and important. Your cat, in its own elegant and mysterious way, is asking for closeness without words. Not every leap onto the laptop is mischief. Sometimes it is trust. Sometimes it is habit. Sometimes it is a tiny declaration of love wrapped in fur and heat. So the next time those paws cross your screen, pause for a breath before you react. Look at your cat and ask yourself what it is trying to say. And if this story felt familiar to you, give the video a like so others can find it too. Then tell us in the comments, does your cat sit on your laptop, lie on your papers, or claim your desk as its own kingdom? And if you want more insight into the hidden language of cats, subscribe, because there is always more to discover in the silent conversation they share with us every day. Every morning, before the house has fully remembered itself, it begins. A paw on your cheek. A small meow in the dark. A sudden weight settling onto your chest as if your cat has an appointment you were never told about. And there you are again, half awake, half amused, half defeated, wondering how one small animal can seem so determined to control the first moments of your day. It can feel personal, almost intentional, as if your cat has looked at the clock, looked at you, and decided that your sleep is less important than their plan. But cats are rarely being difficult for the sake of it. More often, they are being exact. They live inside patterns the way we live inside schedules. They notice when the room light changes, when the street becomes quiet, when your breathing shifts, when your alarm usually rings. They remember the sound of your footsteps, the rustle that means breakfast, the moment your hand reaches for the feeding bowl. To a cat, these are not random details. They are clues. And somewhere along the way, your cat learns something powerful. When they do this, something happens. A door opens. A bowl fills. A voice responds. Even a groggy reaction can become a reward if it is repeated enough. This is how behavior grows roots. Not through stubbornness alone, but through repetition, timing, and the silent language of cause and effect. That is what makes this so fascinating. Your cat is not simply waking you up. Your cat is reading the world, testing it, and refining a strategy that works. It is a small lesson in psychology, wrapped in fur and delivered at dawn. And once you begin to see it this way, the frustration starts to change. The same behavior that once felt like defiance can become a clue, and the clue can become understanding. If you have ever been startled awake by that familiar meow, you are not alone. And if your cat has trained you better than you like to admit, stay with me, because the reason behind it is deeper and more revealing than most people ever imagine. What looks like mischief is often memory in motion. Your cat is awake before you are, but not because they live in a world of clocks the way we do. They live in a world of signals. The faint change in the room, the first movement under the blanket, the sound of your breathing shifting, the light creeping through the window, the refrigerator humming down the hall, the clink of a spoon in the kitchen long before breakfast is served. To us, these details feel small. To a cat, they are clues. And once a cat learns that one specific behavior leads to one specific result, the lesson becomes powerful. A soft meow gets your attention. A paw on your cheek makes you open your eyes. A jump onto the bed brings a response, even if it is only you reaching out, talking back, or moving in a way they can use. Cats are not always trying to annoy us. More often, they are repeating a pattern that once worked. In their mind, it is not a complaint. It is a strategy. That is what makes this behavior so easy to misunderstand. We see the timing as stubbornness, maybe even a quiet challenge to our authority. But from the cat's perspective, authority has little to do with it. What matters is outcome. If meowing at 6 a.m. once led to food at 6:05, the cat remembers. If stepping on your chest caused you to wake, the cat remembers that too. Over time, the routine becomes almost sacred, not because the cat is controlling the house, but because the house has taught the cat what to expect. And once expectation takes root, it shapes the morning like a ritual. Your cat listens for the smallest signs that their prediction is about to come true. They wait with patience that can seem almost philosophical. Then, the moment arrives, and they act. Not out of anger, but out of confidence built by repetition. If you have ever felt judged by a pair of eyes in the dark, you are not alone. Many cat owners quietly live inside this same pattern, half amused, half defeated. Yet the first step toward change is not frustration. It is recognition. When you begin to see the behavior as learned rather than personal, everything shifts. And once you see the pattern clearly, you can start to change what your cat believes comes next. What looks like a random disturbance is often something much more precise. Cats live by observation. They do not simply stumble into habits. They build them from patterns, silence, and repetition. A room that darkens at the same hour, the sound of a phone alarm, the first shift in your breathing, the rustle of sheets, the moment you usually turn over in bed. To a cat, these details are not background noise. They are clues. And once a clue leads to a result, it becomes part of a strategy. That is why your cat may seem to wake you with perfect timing, as if guided by an internal clock that exists only to test your patience. In reality, the clock is not only in the cat. It is in the relationship between the cat and the environment you both share. If your cat meows and you open your eyes, if a paw on your cheek earns a response, if a jump onto the bed eventually leads to food, warmth, attention, or even a frustrated conversation, then the behavior has been reinforced. Not out of cruelty, but out of learning. This is where the psychology becomes so revealing. Cats are not trying to dominate the morning in some grand emotional drama. They are doing what works. A cat is a quiet scientist, collecting evidence every day. It watches how quickly you rise, what sound makes you move, which action brings breakfast closer. Over time, the cat creates expectation, and expectation is expectation. It transforms guessing into certainty. It turns maybe into this always happens. If that sounds familiar, you are not alone. Many people begin to feel personally targeted by their cat's routine, especially when it repeats with almost ritual precision. But what if the ritual is not really about control at all? What if it is about predictability, safety, and access? For a cat, a reliable outcome can reflect comfort. For you, it may feel like a demand. And that difference is where tension begins. Still, understanding this pattern changes everything. The moment you see the behavior as learned rather than malicious, you stop fighting an enemy and start reading a message. You begin to notice the small exchanges you never thought mattered. A glance, a sigh, a hand reaching for the bowl before you were fully awake. These tiny moments can teach a cat more than we realize. And once you see that, the morning no longer feels like a battle of wills. It becomes an opportunity to reshape the pattern, gently and consistently, one day at a time. But before that change can happen, you have to understand exactly how deeply your own routine may have trained the cat sitting at the edge of your bed. What looks like stubbornness is often something much quieter and more intelligent. A cat does not wake the world the way a human does. They rate it. They listen to the soft shift of a furnace turning off, the first pale light under the curtains, the rustle of your breathing changing before your eyes even open. To them, morning is not a clock on the wall. It is a chain of signals, and over time, those signals begin to mean one thing: it is time to act. And if, at any point, that action worked, the lesson became even stronger. One morning, you opened your eyes and fed them just to make the noise stop. Another morning, you reached out and stroked them because the paw on your face felt too persistent to ignore. Maybe you laughed. Maybe you laughed. Maybe you groaned. Maybe you got up earlier than you wanted to. To a cat, that is not nuisance. That is evidence. A pattern. A door that opens, but put exactly the right pressure. This is why so many cats seem to possess a kind of eerie precision. They are not guessing. They are studying the rhythm of your life with the patience of a philosopher. They know which behavior brings food, which behavior brings touch, which behavior brings touch. And once they discover the result, they return to it with the calm confidence of a creature that has learned how the house works. There is something almost humbling in that. We like to imagine ourselves as the ones in control, setting the rules, guiding the day. But the truth is that our animals are always watching the shape of our habits. Every repeated response teaches them something about the world and about us. They are not only living beside us. In many ways, they are learning us. So if your cat has become a morning ritual with whiskers, it may help to see the behavior with softer eyes, not as defiance, but as a conversation written in repetition. And once you understand that, the question changes. It is no longer, "Why is my cat doing this to me?" It becomes, "What has my cat learned from me, and how can I teach something gentler in return?" That is where the real shift begins, because the moment you change the pattern, your cat begins to notice something new. What looks like a daily battle is often a quiet lesson your cat has been teaching you all along. Cats do not wake us because they are plotting against our peace. They wake us. Somewhere in the rhythm of our lives, they found a reliable answer. A foot moving under the blanket, the sound of the alarm, the first shift of light through the curtains, the familiar moment when you turn over and give them exactly what they were waiting for. In that instant, the behavior becomes more than habit. It becomes a language. And once a cat learns that language, it can be astonishingly precise. They are not thinking in the same way we do, with long explanations or moral judgments. They are reading patterns. They are collecting clues. They are asking, in the simplest and most effective way possible, "What happens if I do this now?" If the answer is food, attention, warmth, or even your frustrated voice, then the lesson is complete. From their point of view, the routine has worked beautifully. This is where so many people feel trapped. They tell themselves, "My cat is stubborn. My cat is spoiled. My cat knows it's spoiled." And in a sense, that is true. But not because your cat is trying to dominate you, because your cat is responding to a world that has taught them to expect results. The morning becomes a small stage, repeated every day, until both of you know the script by heart. Yet there is something hopeful in that. A learned behavior can be unlearned. A pattern, once understood, can be changed, not through anger and not through punishment, but through the patient power of consistency. If your cat wakes you and you always respond the same way, the pattern remains alive. But when your reactions begin to shift, when the morning no longer rewards the same demand, the old lesson slowly loses its strength. That is why the solution is not to fight your cat's nature, but to redirect their expectation. To shape the morning before the morning shapes you. To understand that your cat is not an enemy in the dark, but a creature of memory, routine, and hope. And when you see them that way, something softens. The irritation gives way to insight. The battle gives way to a quieter kind of partnership. If this sounds familiar, take a moment and notice how your cat begins the day with you. Do they meow at the same time, stand at the door, or climb onto you? Stay with me, because what happens next may be the key to changing everything. And that is the quiet truth hidden inside the morning ritual. Your cat was never simply trying to disturb your peace. In many cases, they were learning your rhythm before you ever realized they were studying it. The sunrise, the footsteps in the hall, the soft shift of your breathing, the moment you usually open your eyes, the response they receive when they meow, paw, or climb onto the bed. Each detail becomes part of a pattern. To a cat, that pattern is not chaos, it is a map. Once you see it that way, everything changes. The behavior stops feeling personal and starts feeling understandable. What looked like stubbornness may actually be a habit built over time, reinforced by attention, food, warmth, and the simple power of repetition. And when you understand a habit, you can begin to reshape it. Not with force, not with punishment, but with patience, consistency, and maybe the morning will not transform overnight. Real change rarely does. But small shifts matter. A later feeding schedule, a quieter reaction, a different reaction before bed, a more predictable way of greeting the day. These gentle adjustments can slowly teach your cat that the old script no longer works the same way. And in that space, something beautiful begins to happen. the tension softens. The room feels less like a battleground and more like a shared home again. If this sounds familiar, take a moment and notice what your cat has been trying to tell you all along. Are they waking you early, waiting by the door, stepping onto your chest, or asking for food with perfect precision? Sometimes the most annoying behavior is simply the most consistent lesson they have learned from us. If this helped you see your cat a little differently, give the video a gentle like. And if your cat has a favorite way of waking you up, tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. And if you want more insight into the hidden language behind feline behavior, make sure to subscribe, because there is always more going on in that quiet, watchful mind than meets the eye.